The room is quiet. Maybe it's late where you are. Maybe the world outside is moving as if nothing unusual is happening. But before we go any further, hear these words as part of a story, a moment of reflection, not a prediction of your future. Imagine Archangel Michael standing in brilliant light, his voice calm rather than fearful. He does not shout. He does not seek to frighten anyone. Instead, he says, "This is not a drill, not because disaster is guaranteed, but because every moment of your life matters. The greatest danger is living without wisdom, kindness, and awareness." Think about that for a moment. How many times have people ignored the quiet voice that encouraged them to slow down, to forgive someone, to call a loved one, to drive carefully, to make peace instead of choosing anger? Sometimes the greatest protection is not escaping an invisible catastrophe. Sometimes it is listening before regret has the chance to arrive. Michael continues. You keep waiting for a dramatic sign while overlooking the gentle ones placed before you every day. What if today's message is one of those gentle signs? Not a message of panic. Not a message of fear. A message reminding you that your choices today shape tomorrow. Perhaps someone watching has been carrying a burden that no one else can see. Perhaps someone has been rushing through life, exhausted, distracted, forgetting the things that truly matter. If that's you, pause for just a moment. Take a deep breath. Look around you. There is still time to choose patience over anger, gratitude over resentment, hope over despair. Michael says, "The strongest shield you possess is not fear. It is wisdom guided by love." Imagine putting on that shield every morning. A shield of compassion. A shield of integrity. A shield that reminds you to protect your family by speaking with kindness, protecting your health through wise decisions, and protecting your future by refusing to let bitterness take control. The world often convinces people that power comes through panic. Heaven reminds us that true strength comes through peace. Maybe someone needed to hear that today. Maybe you did. The greatest miracle is not always a dramatic event. Sometimes it is the quiet decision to become a better version of yourself before life forces you to change. So don't ignore the moments that invite reflection. Call the person you've been meaning to call. Say the apology you've been delaying. Express the gratitude you've been holding back. Drive carefully. Rest when you're exhausted. Help someone who cannot repay you. Because these ordinary acts become extraordinary when they are done with love. Michael's final words echo gently. You were never meant to live in constant fear. You were meant to live with courage, wisdom, and faith. Let those be your shield. And as this story comes to a close, remember this. No one can promise what tomorrow holds. But today, you can choose kindness. Today, you can choose hope. Today, you can choose wisdom. And sometimes, those choices become the greatest protection of all. The silence after those words is different. It is no longer the silence of uncertainty. It is the silence that comes when the heart begins to recognize something it has ignored for far too long. Imagine the scene continuing. The light surrounding Archangel Michael grows brighter, not harsh, not blinding, but steady, like the first rays of dawn breaking through a long night. His expression is calm, Yet there is unmistakable urgency in his voice. He says, "Many people believe the greatest dangers arrive with loud warnings. They are mistaken. The moments that shape a life often begin in complete silence." Pause and think about that. How many life-changing decisions happened in ordinary moments? A phone call answered. A road chosen instead of another. A conversation that almost didn't happen. A kind word that prevented years of regret. History is filled with moments that looked completely ordinary until people realized much later how important they truly were. Michael continues. "This is why I called you here, not to make you afraid of what may happen, but to awaken you before another ordinary moment slips away unnoticed. Maybe you've been feeling restless lately. Maybe you've sensed something you couldn't explain. Not fear. Not panic. Just a quiet feeling that something inside you has been asking for your attention. Most people ignore that feeling. They bury it beneath distractions. More scrolling. More noise. More rushing. Until one day they wonder how life moved so quickly." Michael says, "The tragedy I want you to avoid is not simply an event. It is the tragedy of living disconnected from what truly matters." That sentence changes everything. Because perhaps the greatest loss is not what happens to us. Perhaps it is what slowly disappears inside us when we stop noticing beauty. Stop noticing people. Stop noticing purpose. Stop noticing God working quietly in everyday life. Look back over the past year. Were there moments when you almost gave up? Moments when you questioned whether anyone understood what you were carrying? Moments when you smiled on the outside while silently fighting battles no one knew about? If so, you're not alone. Michael speaks again. Heaven has watched every tear you thought no one noticed. Every prayer whispered in exhaustion. Every sleepless night. Every disappointment. Every hope you refused to abandon. Nothing has been invisible. Sometimes people think heaven only notices dramatic victories. But heaven also celebrates the quiet courage of someone who simply gets out of bed and keeps going. That courage matters. Far more than you realize. Now imagine Michael lifting his sword not as a weapon of destruction, but as a symbol of truth. The light reflected from it reveals something unexpected. Not frightening visions. Not scenes of doom. Instead, it reveals countless crossroads. Different choices. Different paths. Different outcomes. He says, "Your future is influenced every day by the direction of your heart." That means today's attitude becomes tomorrow's character. Today's forgiveness becomes tomorrow's peace. Today's patience becomes tomorrow's strength. People often wait for one huge miracle while overlooking hundreds of small ones. The sunrise. The breath in their lungs. The unexpected encouragement from a stranger. The second chance they didn't deserve but still received. Those are miracles too. Michael smiles gently. Gratitude strengthens the soul more than fear ever could. Think about the last time you truly paused to be thankful. Not because life was perfect, but because despite everything, you were still here. Still breathing. Still growing. Still learning. Still capable of becoming someone wiser than yesterday. That alone is remarkable. Now imagine a traveler walking through a dense forest. Two paths appear. One path is wide, crowded, and noisy. Everyone seems to be following it without asking where it leads. The second path is quiet. Narrow. Peaceful. It requires attention. It requires wisdom. Michael points toward the second path. The safest direction is rarely the loudest one. How often does the world encourage constant comparison? Be faster. Be richer. Be more successful. Be more admired. Yet peace cannot be found by chasing everyone else's expectations. Peace grows when you discover who you were created to become. Maybe someone watching has been trying to please everyone. Trying to meet impossible expectations. Trying to carry responsibilities that were never theirs to carry. If that's you, listen carefully. Michael says, you are responsible for your faithfulness, not for everyone's approval. Those words remove an enormous burden. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need every person to understand you. You don't need to prove your worth every single day. Your value was never determined by the opinions of strangers. Your value was established long before anyone judged you. Perhaps that's the reminder your heart has needed all along. If these words are encouraging you, take this moment to gently support the channel by liking the video and subscribing. It helps these messages reach others who may also need hope today. Now Michael steps closer. His voice becomes softer. Almost like a father speaking to a child preparing for an important journey. Before asking heaven to change your circumstances, ask whether your heart is ready for the blessing you seek. That question deserves reflection. Many people pray for opportunity. But are they prepared to handle it wisely? Many pray for influence. But are they ready to use it with humility? Many pray for abundance. But have they learned generosity? Preparation often comes before promotion. Growth often comes before breakthrough. Patience often comes before answered prayer. Michael raises his eyes toward the horizon. A new day is beginning. The darkness that once covered the landscape slowly disappears. He smiles. Not because every problem has vanished, but because light always changes the way people see the road ahead. And perhaps that is the greatest shield heaven offers. Not the promise that challenges will never come, but the assurance that wisdom, faith, courage, and love can guide you through them. Michael's final words for this moment linger in the air. Remain awake in spirit. Walk carefully. Choose love daily. The one who lives with wisdom carries a shield no darkness can easily overcome. The journey is far from over. Because what Michael reveals next may completely change the way you understand the unexpected moments that arrive in every human life. The horizon is brighter now. The first light has appeared, but the journey is not over. In fact, this is the moment where many people make the mistake of thinking the message has already been understood. Archangel Michael remains silent for a long moment. Not because he has nothing more to say, but because some truths can only be heard after the heart becomes quiet. Then he speaks again. There is something the world rarely understands. The greatest battles are not always fought around you. They are fought within you. Think about that. How many times have you smiled while carrying invisible worries? How many nights have you laid awake replaying conversations? Questioning decisions? Wondering whether you were strong enough to keep moving forward? No one else saw those moments. But heaven did. Michael continues. You have survived storms that people never even knew existed. That sentence alone changes the way you see yourself. Perhaps you've been measuring your strength by what you haven't accomplished. Heaven measures your strength by everything you refuse to surrender to. You kept going. Even when motivation disappeared. Even when answers didn't come. Even when the future looked uncertain. That is courage. Not loud courage. Quiet courage. The kind that rarely receives applause. The kind that heaven notices immediately. Michael lifts his gaze toward countless lights stretching across the earth. Every light represents a life. Every life carries a story. Every story contains moments of joy. Moments of loss. Moments of hope. Moments of disappointment. Yet there is one thing every person shares. Choices. Thousands of them. Small choices. Hidden choices. Private choices. He says. People believe destiny arrives all at once. Often it arrives one decision at a time. Imagine a builder constructing a great cathedral. No single stone seems important. But remove enough stones. And eventually the entire structure weakens. Character works the same way. Faith works the same way. Trust works the same way. Every honest decision strengthens the foundation. Every act of compassion strengthens the walls. Every moment of forgiveness raises another pillar. This is how lives become resilient. Not overnight. Day by day. Michael smiles gently. Never underestimate the power of ordinary faithfulness. Perhaps you've been wondering why your progress feels slow. Maybe you've prayed for immediate change. Maybe you've hoped everything would transform overnight. Yet gardens do not bloom the morning after seeds are planted. Roots grow first. Invisible. Patiently. Quietly. Only later does everyone notice the flowers. Your growth may look invisible today. That doesn't mean nothing is happening. Some of the greatest transformations begin where no one else can see them. Now imagine a traveler carrying a lantern through thick fog. The lantern does not reveal the entire road. It reveals only the next few steps. Yet those few steps are enough. Michael says, you do not need tomorrow's light to take today's faithful step. How often do people refuse to move because they cannot see the entire journey? They wait. They hesitate. They postpone. Meanwhile, life quietly continues. Faith does not remove every question. Faith gives you enough confidence to keep walking despite unanswered questions. Michael's expression becomes serious. Not frightening. Focused. He says, guard your attention carefully. Whatever continually fills your mind eventually shapes your heart. That is a powerful truth. If every day begins with anxiety, anxiety grows. If every day begins with bitterness, bitterness grows. If every day begins with gratitude, gratitude grows. The heart becomes whatever it consistently practices. This is why peace requires intention. It must be chosen again and again, especially when life becomes noisy. Imagine standing beside a river. The current never stops moving. Yet beneath the surface, the deepest water remains calm. Michael points toward the quiet depths. Become like the deep water, not the restless surface. People will misunderstand you. Circumstances will change. Unexpected challenges will appear. But inner peace allows you to respond wisely instead of reacting impulsively. That peace becomes part of your shield. Michael continues walking through the light. His footsteps leave no mark upon the ground. Only hope remains wherever he passes. He turns once more. Many ask heaven to remove every obstacle. Few ask heaven to teach them how to grow through obstacles. Growth rarely feels comfortable. It stretches patience. It strengthens compassion. It deepens understanding. Looking back years from now, you may discover that the seasons you wanted to escape became the seasons that prepared you for your greatest purpose. The audience watching this story may all come from different places, different families, different cultures, different experiences. Yet one truth connects everyone. Every human life is precious. Every day is valuable. Every opportunity to love is significant. Michael raises his hand one final time. The light surrounding him becomes warm and peaceful. His final words in this chapter settle gently into the heart. Do not spend your days expecting disaster. Spend them becoming the kind of person who brings hope wherever you go. That is how heaven's protection is reflected in the world. The scene slowly fades. The silence returns. But it no longer feels empty. It feels full of purpose. Because the greatest shield was never panic. It was wisdom. It was compassion. It was integrity. It was faith expressed through everyday choices. And perhaps, long after this message ends, those quiet choices will continue shaping your life in ways you cannot yet imagine. The story is still unfolding, and what Michael reveals next about recognizing hope in unexpected moments may become the most unforgettable part of this entire journey. The journey has brought us here. Not to the end, but to the place where everything finally becomes clear. Imagine the sky completely transformed. The darkness has disappeared. The first golden rays of morning stretch across the horizon, touching every mountain, every valley, every quiet road below. The same world that looked uncertain only hours ago now looks completely different, not because the world itself changed overnight, but because light revealed what darkness could never show. Archangel Michael stands quietly, his sword lowered, not because the battle was lost, but because the greatest victory has already begun inside the hearts willing to listen. He looks directly toward you. Not with judgment. Not with disappointment. But with the kind of compassion that reminds you that every new day is another opportunity to begin again. Then he says, if you remember only one thing from this message, remember this: fear was never meant to become your guide. Wisdom was. Let those words settle deeply. Because somewhere along the way, many people began believing that living in constant worry was the same as being prepared. It isn't. Fear drains strength. Wisdom builds it. Fear narrows your vision. Wisdom expands it. Fear whispers that every unknown is dangerous. Wisdom reminds you that every sunrise carries new opportunities. Michael slowly begins walking across a peaceful field. Each step is calm, purposeful, unhurried. He says, the greatest shield heaven offers is a transformed heart. Not a heart controlled by anger. Not a heart consumed by resentment. Not a heart imprisoned by yesterday's mistakes. But a heart that has learned forgiveness, patience, humility, courage, compassion. These are not small qualities. They are the foundation of a meaningful life. Think back to every challenge you've overcome. At the time, you probably wondered why it was happening. You may have questioned everything. Yet here you are. Still standing. Still learning. Still growing. Still capable of becoming wiser than you were yesterday. That is remarkable. Michael pauses beside a quiet stream. The water reflects the morning light perfectly. He kneels and gently touches the surface. The ripples spread farther than they first appear. Then he says, every choice you make creates ripples you may never fully see. One encouraging conversation. One act of generosity. One moment of forgiveness. One decision to remain calm instead of reacting in anger. Those ripples continue touching lives long after you've forgotten them. Never underestimate the influence of quiet goodness. The world often celebrates loud achievements. Heaven notices faithful hearts. Now Michael looks toward countless homes across the earth. Inside every home, someone is celebrating. Someone is grieving. Someone is praying. Someone is searching for hope. Someone is beginning again. He says, whenever you become a source of peace, you become part of heaven's answer to someone else's prayer.